All right, we got an amazing guest for you guys today. We're going to talk about the Cold Civil War that we have going on with the Trump supporters and the rest of us. But he's going to break down the neuroscience of why it's happening. There's so many interesting parts of this. It's Bobby Azarian. He's a cognitive neuroscientist. He's a Psychology Today blogger. He's written for New York Times, BBC, The Atlantic. It goes on and on. He worked on a show that won an Emmy. I can go on. But Bobby, we got to talk about these issues. I'm super happy to have you on. So I'm going to dive right into it. So new poll out saying like basically 52%, more than half of Trump supporters want to secede from the union. But we are really at loggerheads, what you're calling a cold civil war, right? And you say one of the reasons for this is the terror management theory. So tell us what that is.
Okay, so I think first when we're talking about any of this stuff, we have to face the fact that the only way to understand it is through the lens of science, in particularly psychology, neuroscience, and social psychology. Because if we don't, everything that's happened in the last 5 years and the things that are happening right now will seem completely random and unpredictable. And while these things, Trump winning the presidency, the QAnon phenomenon, the storming of the Capitol, while these things are like something from some wild movie, if you were using psychology to predict what was going to happen by thinking about the collective effects of fear and tribalism, you could have actually seen all of these events happening, and it really wouldn't have been surprising at all. So when we look at things through the lens of psychology, we can really make sense of things. And to do that, we have to think about terror management theory. So basically, this theory says that our worldviews, and when I say worldviews, I'm talking about religions, national identities, and political ideologies. What these worldviews do is ease our fears and make us feel safe. It gives us a belief system that makes sense of reality. So what happens when we're fearful, when there's some kind of existential threat looming? We actually strengthen our worldviews. So we become more ideological and we become more aggressive towards people that aren't in our group. And we become less critical or less willing to speak out against people who are in our group. Now, you can actually trace what's going on back to the period when ISIS was really in the news and everybody was scared about that. And so Trump really exploited those fears of ISIS, fears of immigrants, and became president. And then that scared the left because now we had an incompetent leader. We had this white nationalist movement that was blowing up. So that caused existential fear in the left. And when this happens, each side basically scares the other side and makes both sides more polarized. And when we get onto that trajectory, there's a positive feedback loop that gets established where just the division keeps increasing. And if you don't do something consciously to reverse that, then basically we're stuck on this trajectory that leads us into something like a cold civil war, or societal collapse.
Yeah, I mean, you were writing about it before the poll came out, and plus it makes sense. It's logical. But Bobby, I want to take it one step further. As I was reading your material, I thought, well, this is why right-wingers always start conflict. Whether it's Netanyahu in Israel constantly starting battles, conflicts, wars in the Gaza Strip, whether it's Erdogan constantly picking fights in Turkey, and we can go on, and Trump as well, because the conservative mind is more circle the wagons, right? And when you have us versus them, you're in the conservative mindset. When you have one that is based on hope and empathy and spreading out our identity. So I relate to you, I empathize with you, I view you as in my camp. Then we're in the progressive mindset. So that then seems to incentivize right-wingers to start wars, because the minute you start the war, we immediately go to us versus them, which helps elect conservatives. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think you see it a lot on the right. I think that's kind of the name of the game for them. But unfortunately, now we're seeing it on the left too, just because we are at war. There's like an information war going on because you have like QAnon brainwashing people, making them like believe that, for example, the like COVID or the vaccines or some sort of like bioweapon, all these crazy conspiracy theories. And so when that happens, we kind of all start playing that game. So I think we really need to be aware of that. I think awareness of that happening is really what gets us back on track. I think it's going to take like a massive campaign to like restore trust, and we need to start doing that. We need to start trying to align interests to see like the things that we agree on. I know you in the past have talked about like, you know, some of the right wingers being concerned with corruption in politics and bias in media. And that's something that we should all be able to agree on. Progressives did agree, you know, those were progressive concerns until we had this new enemy. So we need to really try to establish the things that, you know, we see eye to eye on. And I'm not saying meet in the middle, because I think centrism can be just as bad for progress as like extremism.
Right.
But we do need to start trying to understand each other. When you talk about whether we should split the nation in two, just to get back to that, we need to think about the effects of that. If we did that, then America would probably almost immediately lose its status as a superpower. And I'm sure countries like China and Russia would love to see that happen. Russia might even go, oh, you know, thank you. Like, this is exactly like what we were hoping for. So we can't play into their hands. We can't play into Trump's hands. And I think we do that by realizing that the people on the right, the people who are following QAnon, they're pawns in a game. They've been radicalized and brainwashed. So it's really not like productive to like place the blame on them. We have to place the blame on the people at the top. At the same time, I don't think it's right to ban, I won't say I don't think it's right, because it might be the morally right thing to do. I don't think it's the smart thing to do to ban Trump from Twitter and to take everything relating to like, you know, any sort of criticisms of vaccines off YouTube. Not because it isn't a good idea, but it's just going to facilitate the emergence of like right-wing social media to the point where we're both isolated and cut off from each other.
Yeah.
And what that can do is just lead to like right-wing terror, because then there are no social checks and everybody's, you know, all the extremists get together, and that even a more dangerous situation than we have right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Then we're in two different spheres, two different worlds, and that's where we're headed right now. And that leads to that road leads to disaster. But I want to get back to the science, because you talk about the fear triggers an emotional reaction, and you basically shut down your logical reasoning skills. And you talk about the prefrontal cortex functioning. So help me and the audience understand how does the prefrontal cortex functioning affect all of this, and how does fear shut it down? Because I'm super curious about that aspect of it.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. So just to give like a brief explanation, because you know there's infinite detail you could go into, but there's two main brain areas that are important to thinking about like how fear like affects people and like the collective. And the amygdala is the part of the brain that responds to a perceived threat, and so it's associated with the fear response, while the prefrontal cortex has like a slower response, where like the amygdala is just like this fast thing that puts you into like fight or flight mode. The prefrontal cortex kicks in after that response, and it's supposed to calm the amygdala response, and it's supposed to be involved in rational, calm thought. So you might have this immediate instinct to, you know, get tribal, and the prefrontal cortex, if it does its job, it says, okay, don't do that, because, for example, in the current situation that we're in, it's just going to lead to more division, and that's going to bring us towards disaster. So really, when fear is so great, like during times of a pandemic, the prefrontal cortex is inhibited, and the amygdala is just kind of controlling us to where like we're basically not in control of our actions. So what the prefrontal cortex So what we need to do for that is we need to become aware, have a meta awareness of the situation, and we can do exercises like meditation to strengthen the prefrontal cortex. It's basically like a muscle, and if we don't do this, we're just letting the fear, the people who've kind of orchestrated this, we're playing right into their hands.
Yeah. So unless a lion is attacking you, the amygdala should not be in charge. The prefrontal cortex should be in charge, because by definition, it's more thoughtful and helps you get to the right conclusion. It's when emotions drive us that we make wrong decisions. Is that a fair summary?
Exactly, and it's a newer part of the brain, evolutionarily speaking. So it is really like what makes us human, what separates us from lower animals. And right now, it's like even the left, like a lot of these decisions that we're making, if you think about the long-term consequences, they're not the best decisions. So it's really a problem on both sides that fear is just controlling us. And so I've started this Road to Omega project with colleagues and friends and allies, and we're trying to design some sort of plan to create a unifying worldview, align interests, create a logical reasoning system to fight misinformation, and to give us a universal approach to determining truth.
I love it.
And if you want to go to the website, you could see the beginning of it. So we're going to like roll out different parts of the plan, but maybe it's like hopelessly idealistic, but I really think we have to try.
No, it isn't. It's exactly the right thing to do. So everybody check that out. The book is The Romance of Reality. And
that's nothing. It's not too related. It comes out next year, but you can pre-order it now. Thank you so much for mentioning that.
No problem. But we're way out of time, but I'm gonna go over time here because I know it's unrelated, but I love that concept as well. So I just wanna ask you one more thing about that, okay? So
sure.
You mentioned that the universe might be a self-organizing system, okay? And I found that to be super interesting, and that it moves towards increasing complexity and awareness, and hence life might not be random and meaningless. I know that it's a deep topic, and we're not gonna do it justice in the 2 minutes we're gonna talk about it, right? But I'm curious about your summary. What do you mean by that?
So it's really kind of rethinking how we think about the phenomenon of life and consciousness. And basically what the book is about is that intelligent life is not a random accident. It's part of this larger cosmic evolutionary process. And intelligent life is really, once it emerges, it's the driver of this process. It's what spreads complexity and computation. So you can think of the emergence of life as kind of like the first stage of this process. So it really goes back to the formation of like atoms and chemistry. And so once you get life, you have adaptive complexity. So you have a complex adaptive system that can learn and can adapt to changing conditions. And once that emerges, you have Darwinian evolution. And basically on planets like the Earth, we will inevitably get something like the intelligence we have. We might not necessarily have humans, but the idea is that because this process is inevitable, because life learns from its mistakes, life ascends, and basically leaving the planet and colonizing other planets is like a natural part of this evolutionary process.
So
I guess I would say that's the general idea, yeah.
Okay, but does life get intelligent enough that it creates a circle and creates the rules by which life then emerges?
Okay, that's a kind of meta question. So yeah, I think basically with the emergence of new phenomena like life, you get new rules. So you start to get information processing systems that don't follow the mechanical trajectories of Newtonian physics. So you'll see like a living system will start to climb uphill. It will do things that inanimate system won't do. So new rules come into the game, and then, as you said, like life creates new rules, and it's like this continual process of kind of the system reflecting on itself, and like it is these levels of self-awareness that allow life to kind of transcend the standard limitations of biology.
Love it. Okay, so
I'm so glad you're interested. I had no idea you would like bring that up, but I'm super glad because I think it's like the most fascinating thing like you can think of.
Yeah, 100%. Bobby, we got to get you back on the show to talk specifically about that. Okay, because
keep up the good work.
Thank you, brother. I think it's the most interesting topic. So everybody check out The Romance of Reality, check out the Road to Omega, and I think you're just right on all these issues. So Bobby Azarian, thank you, brother, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You can pre-order it on Amazon and Target. So yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for shouting it out.
No
appreciate
problem.
it, Jing.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.